Charles Oliveira has fired back at Ilia Topuria after Topuria took a jab at him last week. Topuria posted some training footage to X and captioned it with a bold and mocking statement. "Don't forget to bring the pillow at Charles Oliveira." The comment was clearly meant to imply that Charles would get knocked out and put to sleep, something no fighter wants to hear, especially from a potential opponent. But instead of lashing out emotionally or engaging in a war of words, Oliveira responded with calm confidence and the kind of focus that only a veteran of the sport can deliver. "Dude, you know it doesn't matter what they're going to say." "For me, it doesn't matter, bro," Oliveira began, brushing off the trash talk with ease. "I think only God knows what will happen on June 28th. His words weren't just a reply to Topuria, but a reflection of his mindset, a mentality built on years of experience inside the octagon. He understands that talk is cheap and fights are won through preparation, belief, and execution." Oliveira continued, "We're going to face each other. I think I'm a problem for him, or anyone who's going to fight me." This wasn't just bravado, it was a reminder to the entire division that Oliveira remains a dangerous force. "I've got firepower in my hands and incredible jiu-jitsu," he added. And that's not an exaggeration. Oliveira has proven time and time again that he can end a fight both on the feet and on the ground. He then addressed the growing trend of fighters talking trash to build hype. "What Topuria is saying, or any other guy is saying to me, it doesn't make a difference. You've seen this soap opera several times. Oliveira's been here before. Rivals talking big before fight night, only to fall short inside the cage. Many of them said a lot of things, and you know what happened in the end? My hand was raised." That final statement hit hard. It was a fact, not an opinion. He ended by saying, "So it doesn't make any difference." To Oliveira, the talking ends when the cage door shuts, and on June 28th, he plans to let his fists and skills do the talking. Moving on to another breaking update, UFC 317 has just taken a major hit as it officially lost one of its main card fights. That's right, the highly anticipated bout between Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov is now off the UFC 317 card. The news initially came from Burt MMA on X, and at first, the reaction was mixed. Many fans were unsure whether to believe it, as Burt Emma isn't exactly the most trusted source in the MMA community. But as the story gained traction, things quickly became clear. Not long after the initial report, respected Emma journalist Damon Martin of Emma Fighting stepped in and confirmed the news. According to Damon, the fight is not completely off. It's being rescheduled and will now take place at UFC 318 instead. This added legitimacy to the earlier rumor and gave fans some relief, knowing the match wasn't entirely scrapped. But the real confirmation came shortly after when Lar Via posted more details on X. Lar revealed the reason for the schedule change, stating that Paulo Costa had caught a virus and is currently in recovery. In his post, Lar said, "Important change. The fight between Paulo and Kopylov will no longer take place at UFC 317. I learned firsthand that the Brazilian caught a virus and he's recovering, but he would not be able to compete on June 28th. The solution was to move the fight to UFC 318. This explains everything. Fans were eagerly waiting to see Costa and Kopylov clash on the main card of UFC 317, and it was shaping up to be a war. But unfortunately, health issues can't be ignored, especially in a sport as physically demanding as MMA. It's better for Costa to take the necessary time to recover than to fight while unwell and risk serious damage to his performance or health. So yes, the fight is off UFC 317, but it's not canceled, just delayed. Fans can now mark their calendars for UFC 318 instead, where Costa and Kopylov will finally meet inside the octagon. Let's just hope Costa makes a full recovery and returns to 100%, ready to bring the fire like only he can. Next, let's dive into one of the most talked about topics in the MMA world right now, the status of Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Fans have been eagerly waiting for clarity, and UFC President Dana White has finally shared a much-needed update. Appearing on the Jim Rome show, Dana addressed the ongoing uncertainty and the behind-the-scenes challenges of making this high-profile heavyweight clash a reality. Dana didn't hold back when speaking about Jon Jones. He said, "Listen, Jon Jones has been an interesting human being to deal with since the day he got here, but I will say this about him. Jon Jones has never turned down an opponent or been afraid to fight anybody." That statement alone speaks volumes. Regardless of Jon's complex history with the UFC, from legal troubles to layoffs and controversies, one thing Dana made crystal clear is that Jon Jones has always been a fighter. He might be unpredictable, but fear has never been part of his game. Then came the million-dollar question. Who is Jon Jones going to fight next? Fans have speculated endlessly, especially as the division remains in flux. Will it be a unification bout with interim champ Tom Aspinall, or will Jones pursue a legacy fight with someone like Stipe Miocic? Dana White remained non-committal, replying, "I don't know. We'll see how this thing plays out over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, if we can't get this fight done, we'll move on quickly. We'll have answers in the next couple weeks." That last part says it all. The UFC isn't sitting around waiting. They're moving with urgency. Dana's message is loud and clear. If negotiations stall or the timeline doesn't work, they're prepared to pivot, whether that means moving forward with Tom Aspinall in another title defense or setting up a new path for Jon Jones. The organization is actively working behind the scenes to keep the division moving. For now, fans can only wait and speculate. One thing is for sure, the heavyweight picture is heating up, and whatever happens, it's going to be big. In other news, Joe Rogan has once again made headlines with his passionate praise, this time for none other than Morab Dvalishvili. During a recent episode of his podcast, Rogan couldn't hold back his admiration for Morab's unmatched cardio and relentless fighting style. "That guy is insane," said Rogan. "His cardio is something that everyone who has been involved in the sport for as long as I have is blown away by. The guy's a freak." Rogan's comments weren't just casual observations, they were high praise from someone who's seen generations of elite fighters come and go. What sets Morab apart, according to Rogan, isn't just his endurance. It's the relentless, smothering pressure he puts on opponents from the opening bell to the final horn. No matter how skilled or technical his opponents are, they seem to wilt under Morab's intensity. To drive the point home, Rogan highlighted Morab's most recent performance, a dominant showing against Umar Nurmagomedov. You see guys like Umar, he's elite, he's world class. At any other time, he'd be a world champion. But Morab just overwhelmed him, Rogan emphasized. You see him getting overwhelmed by the pace, and Morab doesn't even get tired. That comment really captures how unique Morab's conditioning is. It's not just that he doesn't gas out, it's that he maintains a pace so brutal that even elite level opponents crumble. Rogan also spoke on Morab's roots, calling attention to the fighter's background and mental toughness. This guy from Georgia, from a war-torn country, just embraces the grind at a level no one else can. Rogan said, "No one can match his cardio, no one can match his pace. He melts the greatest of the greats." That kind of praise from Rogan isn't handed out lightly. Morab has clearly earned the respect of not only his fellow fighters, but also the veterans and commentators who have seen the best of the best. As the bantamweight division continues to evolve, it's clear that Morab is not just a contender. He's a cardio machine and a nightmare matchup for anyone brave enough to stand across from him in the octagon. Next up, we have more breaking news. And yes, Conor McGregor is in trouble again. This time, there's not just speculation when there's actual video footage. According to a report from The Sun, Conor was involved in yet another altercation, this time at a nightclub in Ibiza. In the clip, McGregor can be seen holding a drink in his right hand while speaking to another man in the crowd. Things seemed calm at first. The man didn't appear to be threatening or even aggressive, but in true Conor fashion, the former double champ suddenly threw his signature left hand out of nowhere, landing a punch that appeared to knock the man down. He even followed it with another quick strike, all while still gripping his drink. A group of men quickly stepped in, trying to break things up and de-escalate, but McGregor never dropped his drink, which some fans jokingly called the most McGregor part of the whole incident. Now, with the video making the rounds online, speculation is growing that a lawsuit may be imminent. If authorities in Spain determined that Conor was the aggressor, he could be facing serious legal consequences. And given his history, this wouldn't be his first run-in with the law overseas. Fans may also remember another incident from Ibiza, when McGregor was accused of assaulting a woman on his yacht during his birthday celebrations. The woman later said he looked possessed during the attack, and now here he is again, allegedly throwing punches, this time in public, and once again raising serious questions about his behavior outside the cage. The MMA community didn't hold back. Some fans sarcastically claimed Conor is now 1-0 in 2025, even if it wasn't in the UFC octagon. Others were more critical, with comments like, "He's punched more people outside the cage than inside it." One brutal jab from a fan read, "This rat only knocks out old men and drunk strangers." Khabib and Dustin took his soul. Now he thinks every guy is Ilia Topuria. With his fighting future uncertain and fans growing frustrated, Conor's latest controversy just adds to the long list of outside the cage chaos. And at this point, many believe he's running out of chances. Moving on, there's been an intense and somewhat shocking story coming out of the gym, and it involves none other than Kamzat Chimaev. In a recent interview, Kamzat confirmed that he broke a heavyweight fighter's nose during a particularly heated sparring session. And this wasn't just any heavyweight. The incident involved Amir Aliakbari, a known fighter who had recently stirred controversy by calling out Kamzat's close friend Muhammad. According to Kamzat, the situation escalated the moment he saw Aliakbari at the gym. "If someone even verbally goes after my brother, I take it personally," Kamzat said. There was no hesitation. Kamzat walked up to Aliakbari, confronted him, and challenged him to a sparring session right then and there. What followed wasn't your typical sparring match. This was an all-out war. For a full 30 minutes, the two engaged in a violent back and forth. There were no pulled punches, no holding back. It was raw, explosive, and emotional. Coaches eventually had to step in and separate the two fighters before things got even more out of hand. After the intense session, Aliakbari reportedly backtracked, admitting that his call-out of Muhammad was purely for promotional reasons. He claimed he had respect for both Muhammad and Kamzat and didn't mean to start anything personal, but the damage, both physical and reputational, as was already done, Kamzat wasn't buying it. "I always go hard in sparring," Kamzat explained. "Every single time. That's just who I am. And especially if it's someone who's talked, then I go even harder." Kamzat is currently deep in preparation for his upcoming fight against Dricus du Plessis, and fans are now wondering, will this same intensity show up in the octagon? If his training sessions are this brutal, his next opponent might be in serious trouble. This story adds to Kamzat's growing reputation as a relentless, no-nonsense warrior who doesn't tolerate any disrespect, not even in the gym. It's becoming clearer than ever. Kamzat Chimaev is not someone you want to cross, inside or outside the cage. Back to Joe Rogan again. He recently doubled down on his admiration for Morab Dvalishvili, calling him one of the most impressive athletes in the sport. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan couldn't stop praising Morab's unmatched work ethic and incredible endurance. "The guy's a freak," said Rogan. Daniel Cormier went to visit him the day after he won the title on Saturday night. He beat Sean Ali in a dominant 5-round decision, and the very next day, Cormier saw him running. He just doesn't stop. Rogan emphasized that even the most elite fighters in the UFC struggle to match Morab's pace. It's not just about technique or strategy, it's about relentless pressure. Rogan mentioned that even fighters who resort to performance-enhancing drugs can't come close to Morab's level of endurance. He referenced coach Firas Zahabi, who said, "I know guys who take EPO and still don't have the cardio that Morab has." Zahabi even joked that Morab should be studied in a lab to understand how he maintains such a high level of performance. Rogan wholeheartedly agreed. You can see the evolution in his technique. Sure, a lot of that development happened in America with top-tier coaching. But what truly sets Morab apart isn't just the technique, it's his mindset, his grind, his refusal to slow down. According to Zahabi, there might even be a genetic component to Morab's ability, but Rogan noted that Morab himself denies that. He says it's not genetics, he just works harder than everyone else. That's his whole mentality, outwork the world. And honestly, based on his performances and the stories from those around him, it's hard to argue with that. Morab Dvalishvili continues to impress the MMA world, not just with his skills, but with the relentless drive that makes him a nightmare for anyone inside the octagon.